My guest today comes from a blue-collar family with respect for conservative values such as hard work, discipline, and helping others. He went to work for the Passaic County Prosecutor's Office in a career that spanned 25 years. Eventually promoted to the position of Chief Prosecutor for the Homicide, Narcotics, and Government Corruption Units, he was involved in 100 trials and closed thousands of cases. And now he's running for election to the U.S. House to represent New Jersey's 11th Congressional District. He's on the ballot in the general election on November 8, 2022. Paul DeGroot, welcome to ITV Gold Studio.
Thank you for having me. And I just want to start off by wishing everyone in the community a happy Dashira. So I understand it's an important holiday, and my wife being Gujarati, yes, she's beautiful and she's successful and she's a great mom. And we celebrate both holidays, so I'm glad to be here on this day.
Pleasure. Paul, how exciting and challenging has this race been for you so far? How did you prepare yourself mentally and emotionally to run for it?
Well, the real story, I guess, is that in 2018 the district changed, and my opponent Mikey Sherrill became the congresswoman. And I knew that things were going to change, and I didn't think they were going to change for the better, and they certainly haven't. And in 2020, she ran again, and she was reelected. And I have a 4.5 and a 2-year-old at this point, and I've been prosecutor for 25 years. And I would have loved, the candidate in 2018 to win, and the candidate in 2020 to beat Mikey Sherrill. But at this time, at this proper time in the country's life, in 2022. I felt that I would be the best possible person to put America back on the right track. I think there's a lot of things going wrong in the country, and we need the best person, and that best person is going to be me.
So that would have been my next question. You pitted against the Democratic Party candidate Mickey Sherrill, who's also representing New Jersey's 11th Congressional District. Why should voters elect you and not your opponent?
A lot of reasons. Okay, so Mikey Sherrill, first of all, I think it's important to be born and raised in the area that you're representing. I know New Jersey. I was born and raised here my entire life. As you mentioned earlier, I was born and raised in a firefighter household. My father was a union member, which a lot of people in the Republican Party said, "Oh, unions," but I embraced unions. I worked for my prosecutor's office, and I was president of my association. I was born and raised here. I know New Jersey. I know New Jersey problems, and New Jersey problems are taxes. The cost of living, safety, jobs. Mikey Sherrill, she likes to talk the talk. She doesn't walk the walk. She's not anything of substance. She campaigned on what's very important to New Jersey residents is called SALT, state over local taxes. In 2018, she promised to get us that deduction back. She failed. In 2020, she promised again to get us that deduction back. She failed. And this time around in 2022, she had a chance to show that she's for New Jersey and for us. And she folded, and she didn't get it done, and she signed on to this Inflation Reduction Act, which will not reduce inflation. And she folded, and she caved, because she doesn't care about this district. She doesn't care about the Indian community, and we can talk about that either.
We will talk about that.
Very disrespectful.
So what is the single most important issue that is the highlight of your campaign?
Common sense. And it's lacking in Washington, and it's lacking with a lot of politicians. Common sense. Common sense that inflation is way too high, and we need to get it down. My 87-year-old father and my 92-year-old uncle, they can't live with the inflation rate that it is. It's affecting seniors in your community, seniors that I know. And the second thing is cost of gasoline, cost of food. I have 2 young children. The cost of putting a tank of gas in my car is through the roof. We are the strongest energy country in the world. We should act like it. We should be energy dominant. We should be dictating the prices that other countries pay. Law enforcement. Mikey Sherrill never tried a case. She never took a gun off the street, and she never took drugs off the street. She says she was a federal prosecutor, but she never tried a case. I took guns off the street. I took drugs off the street. As you mentioned, I was a chief assistant prosecutor of narcotics and homicide. I had the 4:30 in the morning phone calls. I did the wiretaps taking drugs off the street. I did the real work, and I can come up with real solutions. Mikey
course.
Sherrill just does what she's told. She's in league with Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi, and look how that's turned out this year. I'm not beholden to anybody. I'm my own man, and I just want to do what's best for this district.
As a conservative, you support all parents' rights to be part of curriculum decisions in their children's schools. You want to work with parents to make sure our public school curriculum teaches students marketable skills, not socialist propaganda. Describe what is socialist propaganda.
Well, it starts with Governor Murphy and his agenda. He wants to teach third graders to 12th graders things that should be taught by parents. Sexual activity. They wants to talk about certain types of protection, sexual protection, sexual acts. For a third grader, ridiculous, ridiculous, way too soon. I want to go back to the days where schools they teach the basics, they teach the algebra, the geometry, the history. And the history is not a history of America being a bad country. The history is about America is the best country in the world. People come here for a reason, and it's liberty, freedom, opportunity, respect for religious freedom. That's why they come here. And I've met a lot of people from various communities, and they are small business owners and things like that. But as far as education goes, we got to get back to basics. These children have to be taught when they're 18. They go into the military, they go get jobs, they go on for further education. But we have to stop putting more on the teachers and requiring teachers to teach things that are not subjects that we need to learn. And parents, they have to be a part of it at every stage. There was a crazy incident in Cedar Grove where a school board president gave a survey to third graders asking third graders to 12th, asking their sex, their race, their gender, the pronoun they want to be addressed, their sexual preference, and then asked, do you feel safe in school looking and acting like you do? That survey was done without a parent knowing it. And it was made to be done in class. Once the parents heard of that, 3,300 parents signed up to remove that board president. And I stood with those parents. I made a video and I said, I'm with parental rights always, now and forever. Parents will have to have a say in what's being taught in their schools.
Absolutely. Moving on, what are your views on critical race theory? Do you think that the core idea of race is not merely the product of individual bias or prejudice, but also something embedded in the legal system and policies?
So, CRT, critical race theory, right now, again, it's parental rights. Does this need to be taught in school? Is it being taught in school? That's why I think parents should have a say in what the curriculum is. America is always about equality, not equity, equality. Everybody has an equal chance to get ahead in this world and get ahead in school. And again, we don't need to be teaching how bad America is. Certainly not to sixth graders in K through 12. This is an amazing country, and we need to be talking about our founding fathers, the values that we were raised on, the Constitution, and the Declaration of Independence. It's an amazing country. We've achieved things that no other country has. Now, we are not perfect. America's not perfect, but we always try to be better. That's what we should be teaching in school. And the biggest thing we can teach in school is respect. Not your certain part, not your certain part, not your certain group. Respect for all. Respect for everybody. I was taught that, and it seemed to work out pretty well for the people that I was with and myself.
Okay, I want to talk about the comprehensive sexual education, including LGBTQ and specific health information in public schools, which is from kindergarten to 12th grade. Should it be there or not?
Certainly not from kindergarten. And I think I mentioned just a little while that the third graders up. There's a component. When I was in school, and it might have been a couple of years ago, I'm a little bit older, but again, I have a 4.5 and a 2-year-old. I know what a 4.5-year-old and a 6-year-old and a 7-year-old and an 8-year-old, I realize how they act. Do we want to really be talking about these issues when they don't even understand what we're talking about? A third grader does not know about oral and other types of sex. They don't. They still think boys still think girls have cooties, and and girls the same way. We can certainly wait for maybe 12th grade, 11th grade, 10th grade, in high school years, and when you're more active, when you're more getting, when you're becoming a young woman, a young man, when you're entering an adolescence. I think that these subjects can be taught maybe a little later, maybe 7th grade, like it was taught before. And there again, it seemed to work out for my grandfather, my father, myself. I'm sure you. We've all been quite successful, and we've moved on, and we've had children of our own. Where is this coming from? What is the reason that this has to be taught and pushed on it? What is the agenda behind this?
What do you think is the agenda behind this?
And there again, the agenda is for parents to be disassociated from their children. It is the thought that big government is better for the families than the actual families. It is the thought by the Murphy administration and the federal government. And I want to be part of the federal government, but I don't want the federal government to grow. I want the federal government to shrink. The federal government should not be the substitute for a father or a mother. The New Jersey and the governor and Governor Murphy, they shouldn't be a substitute for a father and a mother. They should not be making these decisions. These decisions should be left to the parents. These should be left at a conversation at a table or in the home, or certainly in their community, their spiritual community. That is being forced on us, and it is not acceptable to me.
Do you think the minimum wage should increase?
The minimum wage is always difficult. Certainly there is the minimum wage, and then there is the the affordable wage, the living wage. Minimum wage stands for one thing. The living wage stands for another thing. Right now, let's face it, every time you raise the minimum wage, the cost of doing business, the cost of having a business increases. The minimum wage was never supposed to be a living wage, and that's the difference. Back when I was young, I had a terrible apartment. So it was so damp and so cold that mushrooms were actually growing out of the carpet.
Oh my God.
But that's what I lived in. I could afford that, and I didn't make a great salary. And when I was younger too, I had roommates I lived with, and we know from history there were multi-generational families living together because that's what you did. You didn't have your cell phones and your cars. You took the bus to work. You walked to work. You had 2 jobs, and you still to this day have 2 jobs. The minimum wage it makes businesses. First of all, it costs more for the products. It doesn't meet the needs of a living wage. A living wage is something where you can make advancements and start to save for a house, save for. A minimum wage is a job that is for training. It is to get the experience. No one wants to be living the rest of their lives on a minimum wage.
So true.
It is a minimum wage. This is how you learn to. This is how you learn to show up to work at time. This is how you learn to do your job. This is how you learn to do the extra things at your job that get you promoted. And a minimum wage, it certainly needs to be fair, but it doesn't need to be extreme.
What is the fair number according to you?
Well, certainly
in New Jersey.
In New Jersey, right now I would not be in favor of raising the minimum wage again. Leave it where it is. I'm not saying reduce it. It is what it is. Leave it where it is. Right now, the prices are way high. Food prices are high. Service prices are high. Getting something repaired at your home and getting things done at your house are all high. So we don't need to put anything more on the business owner at this point. There is way too many costs on fuel, on food, shopping. So I think we keep the minimum wage where it is right now. When the economy changes and things get lower, we can always have a discussion further. But a minimum wage is not a living wage, and we should never confuse the two.
That's a very valid point.
Thank you.
Very valid point. You believe in energy independence. Does that mean that you do not support clean, green energy? Do you think that climate change is a hoax?
Okay. Good question. And this is where I come. I'm a different type of Republican. Okay, my opponent likes to make me out as the devil, really, and it's not working because I'm a reasonable Republican. I am a calm person, and I'm a steady person. I believe in renewables. They have a place in the energy of the future. Solar panels, wind, those definitely have a place, but they will not replace the need for oil and natural gas. What powers the generator to make the battery charged? Natural gas. What powers your central air conditioning unit? Those are things that we need. And one of the things I like to say is I am 100% for energy independence. We are a safer country when we're energy independent because we don't have to be involved in foreign wars that we don't want to be involved in. First example, the first Iraq War. Kuwait is a monarchy. We went in defending a monarchy. In 1776, we broke from the British crown to get rid of the monarchy and get rid of being under a king. But here we are because we needed the oil, we got involved. I'm not saying it was a bad decision to get involved, but when we're energy independent, our allies are safer, so our friends are safer, our prices are lower. If gas goes lower, trucking prices go lower, and what else goes lower? Food prices, because it gets shipped. But I would also like to say that I'm not a climate change denier. There are cycles that the Earth goes through, but the continuing growth of humanity, and that's a good thing. People, living and raising families, but you have to look at cars and airplanes and all the things that are using fuel. That certainly adds to a carbon problem. So we can address that, and we are addressing it. America is one of the cleanest, if not the cleanest countries in the world with their energy. I think we see countries like China, a big polluter in the world, and other third world countries that are big polluters in the world. They're trying very hard to catch up to America. They're trying to have better lives. But if we go green energy, these countries cannot do green energy. They need to use their fuel. But I would also suggest that we could be energy dominant, not just energy independent. If we were energy dominant, we would control the markets. We would control what Saudi Arabia and OPEC does. We would control what Russia does with their oil. If we were dominant, we would be a much safer, secure place.
True. Our borders are not safe. We have an influx of thousands illegals, mostly unvetted immigrants into our country from our southern border. The crime has increased while the police has been defunded, not to mention the drugs like fentanyl in our country. Why is the left and people who support the current government blinded by this?
They are blinded by it. They talk a good game. Mikey Sherrill likes to have a nice little boat on her advertisement saying she's securing the border. Well, last time I checked, the Rio Grande doesn't take speedboats. So Mikey Sherrill is certainly portraying herself as someone who cares. But you know what? And I passed this bill. I signed up. The border is still a leaky sieve. It has the most immigrants flooding our nation ever in the past few months. You can't say that's a success story. I'm the only candidate in this race. There's two candidates, Mikey Sherrill and I. I enforced drug laws, like taking fentanyl off the streets. I also dealt with immigration. There were times where we arrested people. They were charged with victimless crimes, nonviolent crimes. They weren't charged with the murder or a robbery, but they were charged with stolen property. That person was illegal. There should be a process where that person should be deported within 72 hours back across where they came from, the border. The border agents, we need more border agents. We need more ability to track people. The flood of people coming in with immigration, we don't know who they are, we don't know where they're living, we don't know anything about them. It's a danger to our community, and the drugs that are coming in, it was shocking that I just learned 2 days ago they are packaging fentanyl now in Skittles bags, the candy.
Oh my God.
And Nerds bags, the little boxes. And that's how they're getting fentanyl into the United States. That's a dangerous precedent.
And the Halloween is just around the corner.
Correct.
Wow.
So it's very scary. And fentanyl, I was on the front line. I did, as I said, I was narcotics chief. I did investigations with wiretaps. Mikey Sherrill never did that. She was part of criminal justice reform. That's in her bio. So she was releasing people while I was putting bad people away. Fentanyl, I've seen the scourge of drug use, and I've seen death. I've seen people immediately die from fentanyl use. We've done investigations on that. It's a terrible scourge. Heroin, so deadly addictive. But my job was always not putting people away. We did some helpful problems. We had something called helping hands. We arrested the buyer, and we told the buyer, listen, you have 6 prior arrests for drug use. We're going to give you this chance. You go into inpatient treatment today. Today you sign on, and at the end of the completion of your treatment, we will dismiss the charge. And that worked. We took people off the street and we gave them the option of help or going to jail. And everyone that I knew chose help. And it was a nice moment for someone who's prosecuting and putting bad people away, drug dealers, murderers. That was a great moment in my career that we were helping people that had substance abuse.
Wonderful. Do you support laws that require all voters to produce an official photo ID in order to vote? If yes, what type of IDs do you think should qualify?
My answer would be a unequivocal, absolutely 100% voter ID yes. It is the 21st century. Let's stop demonizing, and the Democrats are great at this, fear. They run on fear.
Right.
This is not 1910, this is not 1920. We have so many licenses and abilities to have ID. If the Democrats are true and they want to work with the Republicans, the first thing they could do is, what is wrong with an ID? What is wrong with showing an ID?
We have it everywhere. In India also, we have a voter registration
Exactly.
card.
Exactly.
What's the big deal? It's the right thing to do.
Right. That is the thing. It's the right thing to do. In the 21st century, a digitalized card, something that with a photo, a chip, that would be an easy and wonderful thing to do, and it would go a long way to healing the rift between Democrats and Republicans. I'm not saying that this is just a Democrat thing or Republican. It would do a great thing, but the other side does not want to do this. We have to ask the question, why? And there's a benefit to them for not having it. And when I was in prosecution, when I was in government corruption, I had a case where there was a politician that was signing, a politician's relative, signing up illegal people, illegal aliens, to vote. And we did an investigation into that. So it does happen. Maybe not on the scale that some people say, but it does happen. Voter ID would go a long way to solve that problem.
So do you support voter registration reforms such as automatic voter registration, online voter registration, or same-day voter registration? Why or why not?
Well, there's one of the things is that we've seen things like early voting and opportunities to do early voting. That unfortunately has not increased voter participation at all. Voting so far out in advance. First of all, there's a danger that you don't know sometimes the candidates. My opposition, she's now agreed to debate me 2 times.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Wow.
October 23rd and October 25th, that's what she finally agreed to. It was a struggle to get her there because she didn't want to debate me at all.
Which channel are we going to see that on?
October 25th will be the League of Women Voters. Pretty much her choice because the League of Women Voters are known not to be too friendly to Republicans. But when you have only one choice, you have to take it, right? And then there's another, the Globe, the New Jersey Globe will doing an interview, a debate on the 23rd. That'll be televised, I think, on Channel 11. But the question about the voter registration and early voting, why did she agree to the October 25th and October 23rd? Why? Because VBMs, vote by mails. She's encouraging everybody to vote by mail. She's putting out a multi-million-dollar campaign against me on mainstream TV, which is costing hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. There are on YouTube and Hulu. She's lying. She's absolutely 100% lying. And I'll call her out on when I do that debate, and I could prove that she's lying. But why is that? That's to influence her base and influence her voters to vote by mail early. Now, can that vote be taken back when I prove that she's lying? No, you can't. So there again, that is a tactic that the Democratic Party is embracing. So voter registration, I'm fine with voter registration. Same day, I have a problem with same day. Same day, you have to be respectful of the process. Voting is a very, it is not to be taken lightly. It is something that our country, your country, we are democracies, and this is the bulwark and of the democracy. You get a free election and a vote. Same day voter registration. Making things too easy takes the meaning of the effort away. Yeah. If you're going to be able to vote at a McDonald's, you're not going to see the solemnness of the vote. This is an important election. Every election is important. Quite frankly, I've never missed one. I have made every primary and general election and voted in every one of them. I think it gives me the right to complain.
Do you support the creation of an independent redistricting commission for your state? Why or why not?
I do. That's a good question. It's the first time I've ever been asked that. I certainly think the process is screwed up. This redistricting that just happened, you look at my own district, we have Morris County, biggest county, the Essex, and then Passaic County. Towns got cut in half. Half of Wayne is in my district. The other half is in somebody else's district. So you have a town that is represented by the Passaic County Commissioners, represented by the governor, represented by the assembly, but then you have, in congressional races, half is in one district, half is, does that make sense? No. The other thing is, there's a term called gerrymandering. Gerrymandering, it looks like a salamander. Well, in my race, I have Morris County and Essex and Passaic, and then I got all the way down to Maplewood. Ridiculous. How they came up with this plan, and it was flawed. And it was flawed, and we know it was flawed because when they asked the justice that was in charge of it, why did this plan work? He goes, well, the Republicans had it 10 years ago, so it's the Democrats' turn. That's not logic. That's a flip of a coin. That's, take turns. That's not rational reasoning. And he got a second chance to elaborate more, but I think we saw the problem. His first answer was the truth. The second answer that he took into consideration this and that. No, the first answer was he just felt it was the other side's turn. We need an independent coalition. We need a better job than we just did. I think redistricting was not good in this state the way it was done.
Makes things harder for you.
It makes things hard for me, but it made it certainly made things easier for other people. There was a little give and take, and but I'm not complaining about my race. I'm running when redistricting was done, and this is there were a couple candidates that jumped to other districts because they said, oh, I'm running in CD11. Okay, redistricting. Now I'm going to go to CD5 or whatever. I'm making that number up, but whatever. Me, I stayed.
You stayed.
I stayed because I'm raising my family there. I have a home there. I was born and raised in Passaic County, which is part of the district where I had my career. I love that area, and I love New Jersey. It's a great state. I wasn't going to run from a fight. I stayed in CD11, and winning the primary showed that I'm a fighter.
So thank you so much for talking to us, urging everyone watching this show to go out and vote on November 8th. See you on the election day. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Oh, thank you. It was a pleasure.
Pleasure.